Okay, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Okay, fitrah is a very important component in the intelligence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, in the way He created us, in the form He created us, and in the deen of the system that He has given us. I just chose a few points to highlight the importance of fitrah when it comes to our subject, when it comes about intelligence and how to carry ourselves and how to handle life in general and how to be successful in all matters. We always say, ask your heart. Ask your heart. We know when we say ask your heart, basically, and generally speaking, we're referring to the fitrah. We are referring to the fitrah. Some people think that fitrah is something that is static. Your fitrah grows. This is why I go back to the hadith of Hudhayfa ibn al-Yaman when he writes from the Prophet ﷺ that he said, إن الأمانة نزلت في جذر قلوب الرجال ثم علموا من القرآن ثم علموا من السنة. Now the fitrah has been sent down into the hearts, into the depths, the roots of the hearts of human beings. Then they came to know from the Quran, then they came to know from the Sunnah. What does that mean? There's a similitude here. The fitrah is like a seed that has been placed in your heart. And this fitrah is like a head start. It gives you a head start. It gives you in your heart, because the way we are created is that we develop a vision about something, then we develop the love for that, and that's the drive. That actually, this basic equation is at the bottom, is at the root of all human behavior. And that's the basic premise of worship. So, we have the ability to comprehend something or create a vision from the information we get and then develop the drive towards it. The fitrah gives us the head start, which is that love of Allah is already instilled in our hearts. That a sense of the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His perfection is already present in our hearts. So this is why we have a head start. This is why the Prophet ﷺ says, each infant is born in a state of fitrah, that they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this fitrah grows, as this hadith of Hudhayfa explains. It's just like a seed. Then the seed, in order to grow, it needs nutrition. What is the nutrition that a seed needs? It needs water and it needs minerals. Okay? These are the Quran and the Sunnah. So you want your fitrah to grow, keep to the Quran and the Sunnah. Read the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the words of His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Your sense of fitrah will grow. Now if you don't do that and you are exposed to bad stuff, evil things, you could reach the stage where your fitrah becomes corrupt. So all your ambitions are centered around something that is haram and displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is where most people go wrong when they quote the hadith. There's one companion who came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked him about something. What did the Prophet ﷺ say? Istafti qalbak. Ask your heart. Seek fatwa from your heart. Someone wants to drink alcohol and you tell him it's haram. He said, I asked my heart. That's a corrupt heart. That's a corrupt heart. When the Prophet ﷺ said to that person, Istafti qalbak, he knew who he was speaking to. He knew that this person's fitrah is intact and it's been nurtured and nutritioned with the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah. So he knows that his heart will not let him fall into sin. So this is why we say generally if a person's conduct is much in line with Islam and his heart is full with that knowledge and attachment to the Quran and to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, generally speaking their gut feeling is accurate, is likely to be accurate. So when you feel guilty about something you are about to do, you feel guilty about something you wish to do, or you start to have second thoughts, and you have this fear that you are going to fall into something wrong, or you're going to regret doing this, it would be a good proposition if you follow your gut feeling most of the time. That is, if you are so much, your behavior, your conduct is so much in line with the Quran and the Sunnah. Your gut feeling becomes some kind of an inner rudder that keeps you on track, a compass, gives you the right direction. So when we do something wrong, and this fitrah is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you are about to do something wrong, if you are about to commit a crime, it hurts you. It bothers you. It keeps bugging you. You don't feel comfortable. Even if you want, for example, someone wants to fall into zina, someone wants to get a job where the whole work is haram, or there's a doubt about its permissibility, they can't enjoy that work. It keeps nagging. It keeps nagging. You know, what are you doing? They don't feel comfortable. They can't sleep. They feel guilty about themselves. Their self-esteem goes down. They know they have compromised their principles, or their deen, or what they believe in. But there is a downside to this. You know, when people get into haram, if their environment generally is neutral or good, once they start to get into some kind of sin, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. There's a deep sense of guilt, second thoughts. There is, you know, the heart pushes them away from the sin. At this moment, you have to listen to your heart, because if you don't, many people, do you know what they do? They say drink alcohol. And that happens with people who don't grow in an environment where the alcohol is common. They drink alcohol. They feel bad about themselves. They feel they are filth. That's your fitrah calling you. It's a wake-up call. Do you know what their friends say? Drink more and you will forget. And they will drink more and they would forget. Do you know, you're drowning your fitrah with more evil, drowning it until it suffocates. And when it suffocates, it's done. That's it. Your fitrah, this compass inside you, is gone. You lost it. Unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills to bring it back to life again. So this is why I say we have to develop an informed gut. The more you read the Quran and understand its meanings, the more you read the life of the Prophet ﷺ and his Sunnah, the more you would develop about this. Umar ibn Khattab, when he shook the hands of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and he gave him the bay'ah at that time, do you think he had planned that already? No. It was a gut feeling. It was a gut feeling. But Umar ibn Khattab, his heart was saturated with wisdom of the Quran and the Sunnah. So his gut feeling saved him like no intellect on earth would do. His informed gut, his disciplined gut, saved him at that moment. So this is what the Prophet ﷺ means by istafti qalbak. Istafti qalbak. Okay, the father of Abdullah ibn Jabir. What is this? This is a beautiful story. It shows that the more you take care of your fitrah and you build your identity around love of Allah, because that's the essence of fitrah. You build your identity around love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and dedication for Allah, and you start to develop this understanding of Islam. Allah will give you some things He doesn't give to other people, which is called karama. When Allah gives karama, it doesn't mean that there are no dynamics for this karama. It could happen in a mysterious way, but sometimes we could understand why it happens. We could explain how it happens. Now, Abdullah ibn Jabir, one of the great companions of the Prophet ﷺ, when it was the Battle of Uhud, the Muslims were marching out of Medina. Jabir, who is the father of Abdullah, was an old man. He had 9 daughters and 1 son, Abdullah. He wanted to go and fight, take part with the Prophet ﷺ in the battle, but his son Abdullah also wanted to go. So his father said, "Oh my son, please stay here. I wish that both of us reach martyrdom. But I'm leaving behind me 9 daughters, and I need you to take care of them." He said to him, "I have a feeling, a strong feeling, that I would be among the first Muslims to be killed in the battlefield. And he was the first or the second." How did he feel that? That's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a gift. But it shows you the more you develop your fitrah, Allah will give you more. Many times you would be puzzled in a certain situation. You just, intellectually, you can't work it out. You can't just arrive at a logical conclusion. Allah supports you there, through your fitrah, through your compass. And you will find that it carries you to the right decision. And it happens often. Just one of the active da'is here in Canada, he told me that like he always had good intentions about Islam and things like that, but he had no clue what to do with his life. And he said one day one of his friends was applying for Medina University. And this guy has been applying for a few years. But our friend has no clue, he doesn't even know what Medina University is. So that person took him to the masjid. There was a committee, they came to one of the masajid in that city. And they walked in, and he said, I thought we were coming to a masjid where they would register us for khuruj. So as soon as I entered, he said, what's your name? They took my name. I thought, okay, that's going to be khuruj. So they took my name. I have to go with them. He went inside, then they called his name. So he went into the office. They started asking him questions. He said, what type of khuruj that is? I've never seen that before. They started asking him questions, and he said, I got, most of these questions wrong. I think they asked him like 20 questions, he got 14 wrong. And he said, and that was it. His friend as well sat for the interview, and that's it. 9 months later, he receives a letter of acceptance. His friend who's been applying for 3 years, he didn't receive anything. It was the other brother who was supposed to apply, and this one just came by accident. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by means of his intention, Allah chose for him. Allah chose for him. Similarly, sometimes when you are puzzled, when you get stuck, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you an inner feeling that will push you to act in a certain way. I'll tell you a story. Someone asked me about Shaykh al-Albani. A story about Shaykh al-Albani, rahimahullah. Shaykh al-Albani used to drive fast. That's his habit. Drive fast. Everyone sat next to him, had their feet on the dashboard, out of fear. That's Shaykh al-Albani. One day they were driving to Mecca, for Umrah. They would take a caravan of cars, like 3-4 cars together, just in case anything happens, there are people around to help. The one who's sitting next to the Shaykh, in the front seat, is a person I referred to in my Jum'ah khutbah. Is the person that through whom Allah brings families together. He's married to 4 women, and they are the best friends of each other. They both love him so much, that if you spend 2 hours with him, you'd see how many phone calls he receives from his wives. And you hear some sweet words as well. And he's what? He's in his probably late 60s now. And he has 40-something children. He says Shaykh al-Albani was driving really fast on the highway. And the other cars were behind us. Obviously, we left them way behind us. We're driving fast. No one can catch up with Shaykh al-Albani. He said, we're driving fast, and on the highway, some of these Bedouins, there's a woman standing in the middle of the street, in the middle of the highway. He says, Shaykh al-Albani is driving as if there's nothing in front of him. Speed, obviously speed is like in kilometers. If I'm not mistaken, the number that I still have is like 180. The number in my head, 180. It's an open highway. There's no speed limit. The number I remember is 180. Shaykh al-Albani drives as if there's nothing there. Nothing there. I heard the story from that same person, so it's a first-hand story. He says, all of a sudden, he said, I don't know, some kind of power inside me screamed, and I said, the woman! And I dragged the steering ring, just like that. I dragged it and I left it. And he said, it's just like, I could only see blank, I didn't realize what happened. Then I turned to the back of the car, the woman was standing in the middle of the road, and we were still heading on our way. And I told Shaykh al-Albani, did you see the woman? He said, what woman? He hasn't seen her. What caused all of this to happen? Imagine at the speed of 180 kilometers per hour. You drag the steering like that, you know what happens, you flip. It didn't happen. The woman was still alive, intact, nothing happened. That's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What made him, what is that power that he describes as from within me, pushed me to drag that steering wheel just like that for a second and leave it. That's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So, we see that this type of, I believe this type of our intelligence that Allah put in us, God, we build it over time. We build it, or if you don't build enough assets in order to reach that state of intelligence, which sometimes you have no choice about, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you tawfiq through it. Okay? It's something that you build over time. That's an asset that you keep building. Credit that you build with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The compilation of the Quran. To the companions, the norm was, the Quran is there, it wasn't under no threat. But imagine, Umar ibn Khattab realized, and it was, by the way, it was a creative idea, creative notion. It's just like breaking the norms of the society. You come with this most crazy ideas, which is most practical, and it pays off big time. That's the kind of idea Umar ibn Khattab came with. It just was so creative, so far from people's mentality, that the companions are dying in the battles, and there's a possibility that we could lose the Quran. That was creative. That sense of responsibility, where does it come from? From the correct identity. Once you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you build your identity around love of Allah, this, as I said, controls all your behavior. It actually it forms and it creates all of your behaviors, all of your attitudes, even your communication with the world. How could Umar ibn Khattab detect such a possibility that was far from observation? That's intelligence. The fact that his life mission was built upon belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, around protecting the deen, gave him that sense of responsibility, which used that selective attention. Selective attention, and it could detect something that no one else could see. You know, people in the market, by the way, the people who achieve the best in the market, they have to do a lot of work. You think they just, you know, they seem to hit big bargains with no effort. They're bounty hunters. They get the best deals with the least effort, and they pay the least money, and they get the biggest profits. You think they don't do work? They do a lot of work. But what they do, they are always thinking that they mentally rehearse what they want to achieve. They mentally rehearse the bargains they want to reach. And they inform themselves, they keep reading, and they keep themselves updated until that forms some sort of belief within them about their life mission, that it's all about making that profit. So all your natural resources are channeled into one direction. So they can read business in any situation, and they can detect it, and you can't even see anything there. That's how human attention acts and functions. So exactly, when your heart, your mission is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you're so dedicated about the deen of Allah, you could start to see opportunities for Islam, opportunities or dangers, looming dangers, and predict them beforehand, and be able, or take the precautions to be ahead of events. This is how Umar al-Khattab was. That's a form of intelligence. Now, if the Muslims at some stage of their history, by the way, did not lack this faith-based intelligence, we won't be in this situation today. And I'm saying as well, the ban of the niqab, all this pressure that has been placed and forced on Muslims all around the world, I don't say even in non-Muslim countries, but even in Muslim countries, there's similar pressure as well practiced or exercised against Muslims. If we collectively had a fair amount of this intelligence, we would not face that dilemma. Somebody would have read it well, and we would have taken some precaution measures to avoid it. But once we lack this level of intelligence, we only react. We only react. It's just like someone has a number of balls, and you have something very precious on the wall. And if any ball hits that sensitive thing, you lose it, and it's very valuable. and this person is torturing you by throwing balls in different directions, and you have to jump and block the ball here, block the ball here, you are the goalkeeper, you're blocking the ball here, and this is what we are doing. They're throwing balls on us from all sides, on all directions, and we are just trying to push them away. They're comfortable, and we are tired. We're under so much stress. But if we take the initiative, it would be the other way around. Okay. So the compilation of the Quran was a great initiative from Umar ibn Khattab. Constant communication of the heart. Okay. In the busyness of this life, we tend to focus on our bodies, focus on material things, but our heart keeps sending messages to us. There's a constant stream of messages from our hearts, because the heart is the leader. The heart gives you direction. So it always sends you messages about what is true, what is false, what is right to do, what's wrong to do, what is correct course of action. But most of the time, because of the vibrant lifestyle, the chaotic lifestyle, most of us don't get to listen to the voice of the heart. So we ignore it. And this is why we become weak and weaker in Iman. Weaker and weaker. But actually this stream of thought, or this stream of feelings that is emanating from our hearts, that our hearts is sending us signals, should not be separate from our self-awareness and the awareness of the world around us. Our internal world should be in touch with our external world, because there is some kind of exchange of ideas and thoughts and actions and contributions between both. So once you develop this collective understanding, and this goes back to the issue of identity, once you really develop a good identity, you have a good sense of who you are, what you are inside, what's in your heart, and of your direction, and this actually sets the course for you in this life. But what's happening mostly is that's the other way around. Our conditions are setting the terms for our hearts. And this is why we're not in a good state which actually we could achieve. We haven't reached our potential. Okay, your heart's messages when you do something wrong. Okay, this is something probably we can start with tomorrow. I'll try to finalize the whole thing tomorrow. We will talk about some other aspects about self-awareness. How Iman gives you a sense of self-awareness, which is against al-ghafla. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always warns against al-ghafilun, against being in a state of ghafla, which is very dangerous. Islam has a special concept of self-awareness, unlike the common concept of self-awareness. It's much deeper. We will see what are the elements of self-awareness, and what's the practicality of that self-awareness, how it can help us improve the quality of our lives and our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then inshallah we'll talk about something that has to do with the way we run our lives, the way we manage our lives. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a system that is so beautiful, and you would see that an amazing amount of intelligence within Islam. When it comes to self-mastery, we can achieve self-mastery that actually you can have a record of everything, you can trace back any thought that goes through your mind, and you can actually trace any action you do, any choice you make, you can trace it back to its origins, and you can deal with these origins, so you ultimately you get the desired behavior you want. This all has to do with the architecture of the soul, which is totally compatible with the Islamic system that Allah gave to us, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to us. Okay, if you have any questions, I'll try to deal with them quickly. And tomorrow, inshallah, we will carry on with that. So you're invited. But those who did not attend the lecture or the first halaqah on Tuesday, if you are interested, please go back. It's available online. It does explain a lot of what I said today. So those who were present, I am sure that they have a better level of understanding of what I said today. Okay? Abu Shahada. Yes, Jazakallah khair. MashaAllah. That's a big question, MashaAllah. Okay, advice regarding the old generation of Muslims and the younger generation of Muslims and those who are trying to bring this kind of reconciliation among both. I believe the root of the problem, there are many elements or factors that play a role in this problem, but I think if we develop a sense of initiative when it comes to the younger generation, how they can deal with the older generation, most of the problems will disappear. Most of the younger generation are reacting because they're searching for an identity. They're searching for themselves. They're searching for a place for themselves. They're trying to fit into this society, and they're trying to be themselves. So there's some kind of an identity crisis that everyone seems to be talking about. Now, if we manage to build this identity, true Muslim identity, which I explained earlier, and which actually creates a high level of self-esteem that is immune to any attack, immune to any damage, that gives you an unwavering heart, a stable kind of character, it gives you credibility, it gives you also adaptability and flexibility. Is so powerful that it leads you to take the initiative with any problem. You know, half of the answer to any problem is taking initiative. Most of the problems are generated because we are being passive. Once you take the initiative, believe me, half of the problem is gone. So the advice that I would give to the younger generation is take the initiative to build your own identity and be respectful to your parents, but creating a new and balanced, ideal Muslim character of people in North America or wherever you are, that is based on the Quran and the Sunnah. Create that. And instead of talking about being a Muslim in the West, some kind of ideal character that doesn't exist in reality. Why not make it into reality? So take the initiative to be respectful to your parents, to the elder generation, appreciate their contributions, because they did a wonderful job. You know, the number of masajid in North America and in Europe that were built by the older generation are breathtaking, considering the conditions they went through when they arrived in these countries. Now you walk around, there are masajid everywhere, you walk in the masjid, you have brother, I mean, at least you can say brother. At their times, there was no Islamic socialization, no Islamic environment for socialization. They had to deal with so much of the filth that you don't have an idea about. They put up with all of this, and they built a beautiful foundation of masajid that are established, and this is what actually we depend upon, but we take it for granted. So respect them. Respect their contribution. If you lived in similar conditions, probably you won't be better than any of them. But Allah has given you a new insight within a new environment. Make your contribution, but don't come to a state of conflict or contradiction. Come to a state of harmony. What they've done is wonderful. Build on that. Appreciate it. Acknowledge it. Be that thankful to them, and show them that respect. And then take it from there and build upon that. And you will not, the threat that we have or the challenge that the Muslims have today is the identity issue. And identity is in the articles of faith, which I explained before. Identity is so powerful that because it sets everything in your life in its right place. Everything will fall in place. So you will start to feel this harmony. You start to build the momentum instead of instead of you acting against yourself. You will develop a sense of unity, of theme, momentum that will give you the power to face the challenges you are facing in the society. And then, I would say, after this respect with the elderly generation, as I said, try to find what your contribution should be at this stage. Study the country in which you live. Study where you are now. And come together and think about what would be an impossible future, but desired. A desired impossible future for Muslims within 10, 20 years. What sounds impossible, but strongly desired by Muslims? Once you arrive at something like that, try to spread it around and work towards it. You cannot achieve extraordinary performance unless you have an extraordinary vision. If your vision is expected, you can easily expect it. If it's very logical, if it runs according to the same rhythm of events as today, your performance will be just average. But if you have an extraordinary vision and you work towards it, believe me, Allah has put inside you the power, the ability to generate that power. It's not a joke. The transformation the Prophet ﷺ achieved was beyond description. And we are seeing now a world that is changing rapidly. Day in, day out, it is changing. If you happen to meet with anyone who lived 200 years ago and tell them about the amount of change that is happening on a daily basis today, they won't believe you. So think of an amazing, extraordinary future. Hang your hopes in it. Be determined to achieve it. You will be surprised how much potential Allah put in you. And don't think that you will achieve this potential or this vision through your own merits. No. Make sure that you put your trust in Allah. And this is actually the concept that helps you break the borders or the limitations of the rules that you have today. If you believe in that future and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you are sincere, will help you attain it, you will be surprised that Allah will give you that power and Allah will make things possible for you. That's the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, أَنَا عِنْدَ ظَنِّ عَبْدِي بِي. I will be to my servant as he thinks about me. Do you know why we have low hopes? Because we have lack of trust in Allah. Put your trust in Allah high, Allah will give you enough potential to reach that ultimate vision. So as much as you trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as much Allah will give you. Okay, that would be general. Jazakallah khair for the question. Okay. Any other questions? Salam. Okay. When the Prophet ﷺ first received the message, if you were to put yourself in the Prophet's shoes, it would be an impossible thing to do. Because to change the Arabs, the social system, the belief system, the family system, the financial system, the whole life was built on idolatry. Even their honor among the Arabs was built upon these, upon the idols. The Prophet ﷺ realized if he was to say to them, say La ilaha illallah, it means to them, as you say to the West now, okay, leave your countries and come and let's live in some deserted place where you have no technology, no facilities, nothing. Back to the Stone Age. It's a similar transition, by the way. Because you're telling these people, change everything in your lives. That's it. The Prophet ﷺ realized that he would not achieve that overnight. Great achievements do not happen overnight. So if you're looking for something easy, you're looking for overnight results. But if you are embarking on a great achievement, be sure that you have to develop a strategy. A strategy sometimes, if you work according to a strategy, at some stage, it would seem as if you're not working towards your goal. And that's an intelligence we need to develop. So, obviously, I want my family, my brothers, aunts, sisters, etc. to practice. We think about it, that we go to them, pray. Did you pray? Why didn't you pray? It's good to pray. You'll go to Jannah if you pray. Okay? Which could work with some people. But with some people it doesn't work. With some people it doesn't work. So what do you have to do? You have to think of a strategy of how to make these people pray. How to guide them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It could be that you become successful in school. You become successful in your business. You become socially successful. That you do work for the masjid, work for the community. And let me give this story of my own teacher, one of my teachers. MashaAllah. Allah guided him. He started practicing. His brother started practicing at the age of like 22, 23. The father had never prayed a rak'ah in his life. Never ever. He was a very successful man, profession-wise. He tried to give his father advice, and his father would say to him, you know the sweeper that you clean the floor with? You call it sweeper here? Huh? Broom? Broom. Broom, huh? Okay. He said, why did you shave this broom on your face? That's what his father told him. This is how bad his father was. The younger son, or the younger brother, his style was very direct. He wants his father to pray overnight. So he said, once he heard the statement being said to his brother, he said, you know, leave him, he's going to go to the hellfire. Khalas, he's doomed to the hellfire, leave him alone. And he left. That would be his response. The other one was patient. MashaAllah, he studied knowledge, he became a successful da'i. He started to give durus in the local masjid. Now the friends of his own father started to pray because they love the classes of his son. When he hangs around with his friends, that's the father, most of the speech is about his son, how eloquent his son is, how good he is, how beautiful his halaqas are, mashallah. And when is the next halaqah? He was astonished, he was shocked. Slowly he started to sneak in the masjid, pray behind the pole, and sit behind the pole and listen to the class or to the halaqah of his son. Slowly, slowly he did away with that shyness. He started to sit in the front row and listen to his child, or his son. He used to smoke 4 packets of cigarettes. And when I say cigarettes, 4 packets, a packet has 20 cigarettes, not 10. There it has 20. It's wholesale. 80 cigarettes a day. The man started praying at the age of 67. I saw him when he started first praying. 67. At the age of 69, he started growing his beard. He quit smoking at once. From 80 cigarettes to nil, no cigarettes. He is now 74. He spends 16 hours a day reading. He read the tafsir of the Quran, Ibn Kathir, more than 10 times. He read other tafsir, like Tafsir Sa'di, which is a shorter version. He read it more than 20 times. When you sit with him, he only mentions Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You bring up any fiqh issue, someone to start studying at the age of 76, he tells you what Imam Abu Hanifa says, what Imam Malik says, what Imam Shafi'i says, what Imam Ahmad Hanbal says. And he quotes some books with number of volumes. Total transformation. Now his son lives in the UK, and this father carries on the da'wah. He goes to the masjid and does the same job as his son. So that would be a possible scenario. Sometimes the direct way doesn't work. If we really care enough for these people that we love, why don't think of a strategy? Come up with a creative strategy. See what kind of person that is. What do they appreciate? You know, what would really convince them? What would it take to convince them? Each person has a key into their character, to their heart. So try to find out about this. And it does happen. You know, many times when you practice, your parents stand against you. But believe me, after some time, they are the ones who support you. So it takes patience, it takes sometimes creativity, intelligence, if you truly care about them. So, okay, one final question. If there is, quick one. Yes. There is something I don't think I will have the time to explain, and I don't want to explain because it could cause some confusion. There is something that is called the pyramid or the hierarchy of goals or of passion. Okay, the brother asks, he says that when we come to the masjid, we feel this constant stream of from that emanating from the heart. But once we go outside of the masjid, we have to deal, with the daily business and all that stuff. We don't feel it anymore. There's a problem. Let me try to explain it in a very basic way. There's something that we can do which is an alignment of our goals in life. Our ultimate goal should be Allah. Any other goal that you have, any other desire, any other drive, any other ambition, any other passion you have, try to align it with love of Allah. How? By seeing how this desire that you have can help you get closer to Allah. Try to do it like that. And then change your approach to that desire or to that drive by really seeing it and seeing its value through how it brings you closer to Allah. For example, someone loves sports. They have a head for sports. If they want to do this kind of alignment, make sure that you live for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this goes to what I said about identity, which I can't repeat now. Once you have this, once you build your identity around love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you start to see, okay, this sport, I'm good at sport, and sport is good, neutrally speaking, ideally speaking. How can I make that sport help me get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Okay, Allah loves that I help His creation. This is something Allah loves, so I'll do what Allah loves. Can I help people through my knowledge in sport and my skills in sport? Yes, obviously there are different avenues to help other people, especially the youth. For example, you can do some youth work. You can do some social work. Get people out of drugs, bring them to sport. There's nothing wrong with that. You have whatever sport, it helps people stay fit. So align this with your love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you're doing that because Allah loves that I help His creation. And I will help His creation through the skills that I have. Your love for Allah will be reinforced. Your love for that skill will be reinforced. And you don't have to break from love of Allah as you are doing your daily business. The same applies to your job. Whatever job you do, just make sure it is in line with Islamic law. It has no contradiction to Islam. Figure out a way how it does bring you closer to Allah. How it helps you do something that Allah is pleased with. And try to align that love with your love of Allah. Instead of making it at the bottom of your heart, no, push it away and let your love to that thing go through your love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So see how this skill or this passion that you have, see how it can bring you closer to Allah by doing the things, by using it for the things Allah loves. By this, once you leave the masjid, once you do your work, you feel you're getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So inshallah, this is why people have this secularism. Because they think of their work as something different from love of Allah. No. Your work could bring you closer to Allah. So that actually, whatever you see in the world, ultimately, should lead you to know more about Allah and love Allah more. Instead of it distracting your attention about Allah. It's just having this right alignment. And it all goes down to identity. Every time, because it's a central point. Once you really build an identity that's based on the love of Allah, all other things are easy. Everything you love basically becomes an extension of your love of Allah. So you would figure a way how to please Allah through that thing. So you start to do it for the sake of Allah rather than for the sake of the pleasure of it, of the thing itself. Okay. That's different. Hadith, Nafaqa, Hamdala, Abu Bakr, it doesn't talk about them going from a stage or a state of being connected to the heart to a state of disconnect. What they said is that the stream of faith was strong with the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, as they went out, it would be subdued. That's it. Not because their life was far from Iman or no. It's just because it's the nature of this dunya. It brings you closer to Allah, but because you're not listening to the words of Allah directly. You're getting to know Allah through His creation. So His creation is a mediary. And it has an element of distractness. But when you read the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's full concentration. It's a divine source. So it's a direct way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The dunya is a means to Allah. So the means could have an element of distraction which could cause this interference or this confusion. But it's not a different state. It's only a matter of degree. That's it. جزاك الله خير. Very good question, mashallah. طيب سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. صلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.